Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Highly Inspired. I'm Ella.
I'm Jordan.
Hey, guys. Hope you're having a great week. It's been a nuts week in the news
Yeah.
and in the Twitter world as well, which we're kind of invested in. But
No, every day there's something new. We're very energized today. At least I am.
I am. I woke up feeling good about this.
Aside from the political transition that has been going on within the last week, the stock market has been facing a lot of new terrain with, I don't know if I would call it a scandal.
It's a populist movement to kind of, I guess, stick it to institutional investors, hedge funds, and kind of Wall Street, I guess you call it. And it's meme stocks.
Meme stocks, yeah. Social media has been absolutely exploding about the GameStop, AMC, and basically spiraling companies that have now been boosted by Redditors and people on social media banding together to purchase stocks and increase them. So that's what happened yesterday. Within 24 hours, all of the Twitter universe exploded about this. And now we've got higher level institutions, elites, and politicians speaking out and getting involved because they see this as a threat.
Yeah.
And there's a lot to unpack about it. I think we have found a lot of info and there's a lot of terms, a lot of like meme terms. But I kind of love this because I've never considered myself a gamer, and Ella, I guess we could be gamer girls, but we're not.
I play Wii. Jordan's definitely more of a gamer than I am, for sure. Like, she knows more about the world, and I didn't have a brother, so I didn't grow up really around video games. But I've dated guys that are gamers, if that counts.
I would say most Gen Z, like teenage boys at least, have played video games at some point. So there's a whole universe, and now we're really seeing that just translate into an actual powerhouse, a financial powerhouse.
Which is, I think it's kind of awesome, but that's just my opinion. So I thought we'd kind of dive in and kind of explain just a brief overview of what happened. We kind of gave a little bit of context, but I want our viewers to kind of have a understanding in case they haven't been keeping up with the news in the last 24 hours, since all this is really new. So basically kind of what's happening is, I would say, like, in the last I don't know, maybe like 5 to 10 years, retail investment has become a really big part of the stock market. And I think that that's why we've seen unemployment's still really high. We don't really have a plan for past
pandemic.
We're still in the pandemic. We're still locked down. There's no
the vaccine
hope.
Hasn't come out fully yet.
Yeah, and even with the vaccine, not everyone wants to take it. The 2K stimulus checks somehow just never got passed. Like, there's a lot of financial uncertainty for like the common man, and it's kind of led for people to make side money in the stock market. And with Robinhood becoming such a well-used app, it actually took away the $5 transaction fee that you used to have to pay, whether it was with like Charles Schwab's or more of an institutional investor like that. So institutional investors typically kind of hate and joke around on and kind of make fun of Robinhood investors and say like, oh, they don't know what they're doing. They're inflating shares like Tesla, etc. So that's kind of like the history leading up to all of this. Yeah.
No, with Robinhood, for the people who don't know what Robinhood is, it's a fairly new app. I think it got released in 2013 to sort of make stock purchasing more of a game and for more people to
design friendly.
Design friendly. It's super intuitive. I am a user of it. I have really liked it. And so it kind of has come at the perfect time to expose these institutional hedge funds, and sort of change the game for the stock market. So I think that it's really interesting what's happening, and they're exposing the people behind these hedge funds and paving the way for new ways to invest in stocks and kind of debunk the system.
Yeah, and kind of what these hedge funds are doing. So, for example, like with GameStop, what they were doing was they were shorting the GameStop position, and what that means for anyone that's kind of unclear with that term is basically you're betting against the stock that it's going to do worse, and then you're going to like profit off of that. That's like the most simple way that I can describe it without getting too technical. And so all these hedge funds were seeing, okay, this is a company we don't think is going to do well. We're all going to simultaneously get on board to bet against the stock. And that actually is very, harmful for the corporation, because that's a way it decreases their ability to raise capital, essentially. And so all these gamers were, I think it was a mix of kind of sticking it to the man, but there also was some real logic and financial reasoning behind this investment, because the company has a new CEO, and I think you kind of talked a little bit about the CEO and kind of his vision for the company. So there really was, some truth behind their investment. It wasn't totally like out of the blue, and it doesn't deserve to be shut down, which is what has ended up happening today, you know?
For a valuation increase of 900% in 24 hours, that's definitely not just a product of chance or a product of people seeing GameStop on Robinhood and just buying up the shares. There, between Reddit and previous like CEO statements on why exactly GameStop would have been a good investment, I think it kind of all conglomerated together to propel people to actually buy it up. But I have an excerpt that I found from Ryan Cohen, who just recently joined the board of directors at GameStop. He came out and was explaining that the reason why he joined on was because he started looking at the business model of GameStop and how, because we're still locked down, obviously people are playing a lot more video games, but an area of the internet that doesn't actually allow gamers to try games, we don't have that.
Interesting.
You kind of have to go into a store to try a game out before you end up purchasing it. Everything else, you can find illegal movies online, you can find illegal music online. You don't have to go into the store to buy those things anymore.
Well, that's why Blockbuster
failed. But video games and high quality video games, for sure, you can't do that. So
you have to buy a disc still. Interesting. See, I'm so out of touch, but okay. So interesting. So that's why like this is still a thing, but Blockbuster isn't.
Yeah, I found some other stuff on Blockbuster, but for GameStop especially, I think that is a reasonable explanation as to why there could be some more value with GameStop and the pandemic.
It's not a penny stock is what our point is. It's not like it is totally salvageable. Yeah, exactly. So it's like, okay, well, yeah, there was a little bit of sticking it to the man. And you know what? What people don't realize about shorting is that there's an infinite a level of loss, whereas if you long a position, when you buy a position, the lowest you could get is like you get to zero and you have to sell out. Like there's a finite amount of loss. When you short something, it is way more dangerous because you have to eventually pay for that stock no matter how high it gets. So
there's just a lot more risk.
There's just a lot more risk involved. And you know what? Like these hedge fund people, they're educated. They knew what they were doing. And they're just kind of upset that it didn't go their way, I think. And they're kind of not taking ownership of their responsibilities. And it really reminds me a lot of the 2008 crisis where we bailed out all these institutional banks and we didn't bail out individual people or communities that were suffering because of the 2008 crisis, you know?
I mean, one could say that the government and certain political figures would obviously want to ensure that the players of the 1% in these institutions, these banks, and these hedge fund managers are secured so that they have that 1% tax money that can be locked in for the government. That would make sense, right? However, for me personally, I'm much more for just the average Joe figuring out ways
to make money,
have their money make money. That's what investing is. Figuring out how to put your money towards it making more money. I just think that's awesome.
And I think that it is interesting that, I think that Robinhood really broke the barriers to the common man being able to invest on his own and kind of take advantage of the free market, similar to that. I think that originally social media was to give the common man insight into the corruption of mass media and the mainstream media, and realize, okay, I don't need to go to CNN or Fox News or whatever to get my news. I can do it myself. I can go on the internet, figure out the reporters that I want to listen to, go to the sites that I'm interested in, follow the people that I want to hear directly from, as opposed to having a third party be in the middle of that relationship between, like, it's so cool that you can follow your congressman on Twitter, see exactly what they're saying from the horse's mouth, and you don't have the media manipulating the information in between you and your congressman. It's the same thing with investing. Like, now you don't have to deal with an institutional investor if you don't want to. If you want to directly be in charge of you to that company that you're trading, there's that relationship. And that is, people who are elitists are scared of that direct relationship because it takes them out of the equation.
They want more regulation.
Exactly.
And they feel that they have more knowledge on the traditional ways to do things, that they need to keep that there.
Yeah.
Which is actually more of a conservative mindset if you think about it.
It is more conservative.
But no, I'm progressive in the sense that if we can figure out better ways to do things while still having it be legal and ethical and possible, then I think that I'm totally for that.
Yeah, so I want to ask you a question. So on this podcast before, we've talked about the disconnect between true liberalism and leftism, and how leftism has corrupted the definition of liberalism, whether that be free speech or censorship, or whether it be something like this, where you're seeing the same reporters who have said, oh, we can't be racist, we can't be homophobic, we have to be on the side of we're against hate speech, all these things. And that's kind of, they've been able to hide a little bit more behind that argument. But now something like this, where you see, people's Reddit accounts being taken down because they're racist, which doesn't make any sense. And then you see people's Robinhood accounts or stocks not being allowed to trade because of cyberbullying. What do you think? Do you think that's going to cause people to wake up and realize, okay, wait a second here, like, maybe I want my free speech, maybe I want free trade, because it's kind of easier to see it when it comes to this scenario versus some of the other things that we've dealt with.
I would hope that this would wake people up, because this is a fairly neutral, when we're talking about finance and the economy and the stock market, this is a fairly neutral ground. We're not talking about identity politics. We're not talking about climate change. We're not talking about maybe some more sensitive subjects that people are very invested in right now, because the media has been pushing it a lot. But I do see a lot of discrepancy with the media labeling things that have nothing to do with hate speech or bigotry or racism, and they're using those words because they know that people are so sensitive to those words. Yeah. And that's exactly what they've done with this. There are multiple subreddit pages and like Discord servers. Discord is another gaming hub for gamers to like go on and chat with each other. They are taking them down and saying that it's due to hate speech, when I don't think we'll ever be able to prove it. If they're taken down, how are we ever going to see screenshots of what the hate speech was? They're never going to prove that to us. They're just labeling it that so that they have some sort of moral high ground as to why they decided to censor them. Yeah. And where's the line of like actually demanding proof that hate speech was the cause factor of that?
Yeah. And I think that we've been warning about this on this podcast for over a year now, about this censorship issue. And I warn people, if someone like Donald Trump, who was the president of the United States, can be taken down from Twitter because of hate speech, they will come after you for reasons that are way less. And this is the exact example of that. You have people that are on Reddit who are gamers who probably don't care at all about politics, honestly.
Most of them probably,
They don't care. They don't care. They probably, their main objective is like, I want to, I saw posts about people that were like, I'm paying off my student loans, I'm paying my mom's hospital bill. These are people that are struggling in the pandemic, trying to make their own money. And you know what? They're doing so in a legal way. There's nothing illegal about this. There's nothing bullying about this or racist about this. This has nothing to do with any of those topics. And I think with free speech, it was a little harder to see because it was mainly conservatives that were being labeled free speech, and that was a way kind of messier thing to fully digest for some people. You have to be super invested to really understand all of that. But with this, I think it's very easy for us to get united and realize that the argument is not right versus left. It's actually elite versus the people. And you have people like AOC tweeting the same message as Don Trump Jr. and Ted Cruz, and you have Elizabeth Warren tweeting the same message, and you see now that
Democrats and Republicans
are united,
sort of saying the same things
exactly
on the same theme. I love how you just said the elites versus the people.
That's what it's been about.
I mean, elites are people, of course, but when we're saying the people, we're talking about the common American worker, family member, sibling, daughter, not billionaire Jeff Bezos.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's definitely the dichotomy.
Yeah, and we've been, I'm sorry, but we're in a propaganda war right now. We are, especially with the pandemic. It has heightened it. And we have been told that lockdowns are going to keep us safe, that it's going to keep others safe. We've been given misinformation about the vaccine. Tulsi Gabbard actually went on Joe Rogan, and she actually explained the clinical research studies behind the vaccine and saying that basically it only decreases your symptoms. It doesn't actually help you with spreading it. Like, you can still spread it just as much if you didn't have the vaccine. And there's all this misinformation about that. And because it's so emotional, we haven't been able to fully dissect that. And it's allowed elitist people to keep controlling the narrative and make it so that we think that we're in this war of right versus left. And we're missing the point. It's a distraction. It's a distraction.
Yeah, you're right. I think the right versus left war, and we're still learning as we go.
Yeah.
Before we would have said, oh yes, this is a right versus left war polarization.
Yeah.
But now I can finally I realize that that's also a smokescreen. Just as the pandemic has been a smokescreen.
It's all smokescreen.
It's all smokescreen, and it's propaganda trying to get us to think that this is a political war, but I think it's a reality war, and it's a power war between the elites and
like this is a perfect tweet. The last 24 hours have revealed that the 1% versus the 99% represents a much deeper divide in the country than Republicans versus Democrats. And I love the example that the visual you gave with the smoke screen. I have even been in this like smoke screen of left versus right, like that's the real civil war. And you're so right, like they used it as a way for us to be confused about who the real enemy is, because when you don't know like who your real enemy is, then you're just fighting in the blind, and you don't know who your real target is, and you're going to keep getting screwed, you know?
Well, I think that the elites knew that. I mean, you have to have the people have to have someone to set their sights on as the enemy.
Yeah.
Sort of like a figure to argue against. But in reality, it's kind of them when you think about it.
Yeah.
I found another funny tweet. Rich people, why don't the poor just invest their money? Poor people, okay. Rich people, ... Wait, stop. It's like, that's what they wanted.
That's what they wanted. I know I think the interesting thing is, there's another interesting topic. It's like regulation versus censorship. And I heard this really good guy on, I don't know if it might've been Bloomberg News or I don't remember, but he was explaining, this reporter was coming at him, and the reporter was defending the hedge funds. And he goes, and he's calling to basically, he's like, oh, we need regulation. And the guy's like, okay, if you want regulation, then it needs to be across the board. It needs to apply equally to institutional hedge funds, investors, and it needs to apply equally to retail investors. And maybe people just need to overall be more transparent about why they're making decisions. But we cannot just say, oh, now because retail investors, individual people are making money, now of a sudden we need censorship just for these people, and just shut down their ability.
Censorship.
Yeah, like it's ridiculous. And I don't know. It just.
I'm not surprised. After processing all this today, I thought of something just in terms of looking back to what some of like the App Store and Android App Store, Google Play Store have shut down. Parler, which was an alternative to Twitter. They definitely have the power to take down full-blown applications, which Robinhood is also an application. And it just scares me because since they've already turned over that stone of taking down not only accounts and not only tweets and putting labels on certain things, but they've also taken down the full platform from their stores. They could totally do this with Robinhood if they got enough complaints or threats or felt compelled enough that this would really disrupt like the elites system that much.
Yeah.
And then what would these people do? How would we invest? How would we continue this retail investment trend? I don't know. It's just something to think about.
Yeah, it's interesting you bring up Robinhood getting taken down from the App Store, because I don't think that that's out of the realm of possibilities. Like I've told people, the craziest thing you can think of that could happen. Like that is the reality that we're living in right now.
Believe anything, and you really can.
Yeah, and I would say, I think there was someone in New York just sued Robinhood as a company. And what I think is interesting is kind of the next level up from Robinhood is cryptocurrency, which we were talking about, and Bitcoin and these like blockchains and stuff, which you could probably describe a little bit more in detail to people who don't know. But I think that is an interesting alternative because there's no CEO of Bitcoin that you, or a customer service number or someone you can sue. Like it's very anonymous. So it's almost protected in that way. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
As of right now, what we know about Bitcoin is that it is a decentralized currency or cryptocurrency. And it's not backed by an entity. There's no corporation behind it that you can call and get help on. You purchase from miners, and miners are intertwined with like the engineers of the blockchain. So I sort of try to explain this as a blockchain is a digital mine, where just how you go into a cave and you dig for gold and you come out and you have your gold. The blockchain is a synthetic digitally created sort of nether where miners go in and actually mine the Bitcoin. So as of right now, with that being decentralized, it's awesome because it wouldn't be attached to any government or any country. However, we don't know if there's someone really powerful and really wealthy behind that. And there easily could be, because there are a lot of globalists in America, and a lot of them are amongst these wealthy elite Freemasonry group. And so if one of them were behind Bitcoin or behind, say, Ethereum, another very large cryptocurrency right now, then that could be centralized. And then all the people that invested in their money in Bitcoin, thinking that they would be secured and that they would have control over it, if it ever became centralized again, then
we're back to square one.
We're back to square one, and they might have lost a lot of money. So I haven't bought any yet because I don't know what's going to happen. There are really big shifts going on in the political world, in the globalist economy, and then also the financial markets. So it's a little too uncertain for me. Maybe soon, if it could be more certain, then I would be more comfortable, because I think it's a cool idea, but I just want it to stay
decentralized.
How it is right now.
Yeah. I think the idea of decentralized markets gives me a lot of hope, because I am such a, like, my ideology is freedom. Like, I want free markets, I want free speech, I want everything. Like, I want everyone to be equal. Equal opportunity. I want all of that stuff. It all sounds amazing and beautiful and great. And I wish that every place in the world could be like that.
Yes.
Utopia. Yes. But right now, like, where there's a lot of illusions going on. Like, I think that we live in a free market. And I even thought I did for a while. And then I started seeing, okay, like, all these big companies have institutional power. I was seeing the Bill Gates thing happen, where you get to a level where you have so much money and you're such a monopoly, where basically, like, regulators or government there's no one stopping you. Like, you're pretty much at a God level power level. Like, there's nothing earthly.
You've got the resources, you've got the connections, you've got the infrastructure, you've got the tech.
Yeah.
You've got all the key
You got the
players.
data, you got, and
people like Bill Gates and Jeff Bezos have all of that. And even Elon Musk too, although he hasn't done anything so far that is a serious red flag to me.
Yeah,
yet,
me either.
But he could.
Yeah, and so I think the idea of decentralized currency and kind of financial institution would be cool, and I'd like to like study more of the history of it, because I think that when the US was being found, there was a debate between the founders, and I don't want to mess this up, so I don't remember exactly who was for a centralized bank and who wasn't, but that was a debate since like the beginning time of our country, and I think it's very interesting, and I think that this is a populist movement, and we've seen a lot of populist movements happen across the US and also across the world. Brexit was a huge populist movement, and it's really sad that people like to diss on that and kind of put it populist into right and conflate that with right wing, because a lot of these ideas aren't right wing, like free markets, free speech, being an independent, like Britain's choice to be separate from the EU, which the EU is a globalist institution, like that doesn't make you far right. Like it really doesn't.
No, I mean, from the words of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris's administration, they're calling for unity, that our country needs to try to unify right now, which I agree with. I want it to be natural. I want it to occur naturally. And what's happening right now with both the left and the right sort of engaging in this like stock purchasing activity where they're coming together and disrupting the elite's institution. I love that. That's unity. This isn't a right or left sort of behavior. This is just natural.
People helping people.
Memes. Like that's sick. So, anyways,
people helping people.
To go back to the censorship thing, though, one thing that I did realize so everyone knows what cancel culture is. We've talked about that probably a billion times on this podcast.
At length.
I think cancel culture really started to manifest through people canceling people.
Yeah.
And then it went on to big tech canceling accounts.
Yeah.
And now it's big tech canceling full platforms. So it's really interesting seeing the evolution of how it's grown. And so I'll call it big tech cancel culture on full platforms like Parler and potentially Robinhood soon.
Yeah.
I don't think I could predict that they will, but I wouldn't put it past them.
I think
if it does come out in the next month or so, then I wouldn't be surprised.
I think what this is showing is that you're right. I think that it's showing the difference between it's showing the parallels actually between like Twitter and Robinhood, because Robinhood has actually, with them today waking up and being like, oh, I went to go see if I could buy AMC just for like shits and gigs, and I couldn't buy it. I couldn't buy GameStop. And by them making that decision and not holding strong and giving into censorship, they're now like someone is pulling the strings behind the scenes.
Someone's pressing the buttons.
I don't know who it is. Someone is pressing the buttons. Same thing with Twitter. Twitter, it seems like they're more on board from an institutional level. Like Jack Dorsey is on board with whoever is pulling the strings behind him. But something like Parler, the minute you stand up to the person that's like, you know what? Your app messes with our agenda. So now you need to get on board with our program. The minute that you say no, that's when I think your app goes away. And Robinhood is in this middle ground. So it'll be interesting to kind of see if they will stand true to their company's values about decentralizing trading, or if they'll give in to institutional power because they're too afraid of getting kicked off the app program.
Well,
I don't know.
Let's hope that yesterday them stopping people from buying more shares was just a temporary, like a one-time occurrence because they were just getting completely overwhelmed and they would have like crashed or something. But it'll be interesting to see if they continue to do that and follow along with. Robinhood and Twitter are completely different business models. Robinhood isn't a social media. Twitter has nothing to do with finance. So it's interesting how they can kind of engage with the same censorship like activities, although in completely different ways.
Yeah.
So I hope Robinhood doesn't comply with that theme.
And I hope that people are waking up to the hypocrisy, because this has been the clearest it's been in the last year, even though I've been able to kind of decode it a little bit. But I've just seen reporter after reporter be on the side of these hedge funds and these institutional investors and being like, oh, like these Reddit people are so dangerous, et cetera, et cetera. And these are the same people that say,
domestic terrorism.
Yeah, there's the same people that say that half the country are domestic terrorists, and they're the same people that
like, have you ever actually taken a step back and thought, like, why are they doing this? Like, I wonder why people are acting out. I mean, obviously, people doing this with the stock market stuff versus storming the Capitol are completely different ways of expressing your emotions. But what it is people trying to expose corrupt institutions, and I'm all for it because I don't believe it's a left or right issue. I think that this is a freedom issue, and I think that this is something that will seriously affect us if we continue to let them have the power. If we continue, maybe I'll just get off these apps altogether. I want to stay on Robinhood. I want to stay on Robinhood if I can believe that they'll continue to to care about the retail investors, because it's a smart way to make extra money.
Mm-hmm.
These gamers, I think they got their stimulus checks and we're like, let's just throw it in GameStop and AMC. Yeah. Like, AMC, if you think about it, AMC, GameStop, BlackBerry, not only are all of these and spiraling downwards companies, but they are perfectly coincidental with the gaming community. Movies, BlackBerry phones, Nokia.
They also bought a penny stock of Blockbuster. But just to clarify to everyone, because I just want to make sure, we're not saying that we were for the storming of the Capitol. We already made that clear in our last podcast. But I think what we're saying is that, like, this is a better way to express your anger and frustration of elitism than turning to violence. But it's funny that the elites are equating these two same things as equal things when they're actually not. Like, one was a violent attempt and the other one is people investing legally in stocks. So the fact that the media is trying to conflate the two as the same type of aggression and saying that both are racist, both are bullying, both are criminal is very odd to me. I don't know, you know what I mean? Because it couldn't be farther than a contrast.
Mm-hmm. No, you're completely right. I agree. I found something cool that I want to tell you. So, it's called the 4 Boxes of Liberty. Methods to preserve freedom.
Mm-hmm.
And the 4 boxes are the ballot box, the soap box, the jury box, and the cartridge box.
What's the cartridge box?
Cartridge box is like a case to carry ammo or shells for bullets.
Okay.
Like more shotguns. Okay. It's just like a metaphor, sort of. But if you think about it, for people who didn't feel that their voices were heard through the ballot box, and with censorship, our modern form of soapbox is social media.
Mm-hmm.
People feel that they can't make their voices heard through that due to censorship and cancel culture. And the jury box, you never know which that way is going to go, with judges siding in certain ways that they feel might not have supported their thinking. And then you ultimately get to the cartridge box, which is violence. And we've seen all of these play out in completely different ways. And I just love that little analogy, because I think that
that's how you get to violence, is when you feel like the system in place is just like constantly not working for you. And we saw that happen all throughout like 2020, with even like the riots as well. That was the reasoning behind that. Mm-hmm. So I think that is like a very like true progression of things where, you know, I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. Maybe they should add one in there, like
crypto,
your wallet box or something. Yeah. That you can make an impact through exploiting finding holes in the financial system.
I would say that this has honestly been way more effective than the stupid storming of the Capitol.
Infinitely more effective.
The people that stormed the Capitol, I was like, do you guys actually, like, what's your plan here? It's like a bunch of it was a bunch of QAnon, Antifa, random like MAGA people, and I'm like, what is the plan here? Like, are you gonna you're gonna finally get in there? Like, it made zero sense.
There was no long term. I don't think they ever thought of the repercussions, and it might have seemed like a compulsive, oh, this is a great idea, but there might not have been an actual logic behind it.
It made zero. The whole thing, I still don't understand it.
I know. I don't either. I think that they're now finally realizing, oh, wait, I think I pushed my party backwards like 4 miles. I don't think I actually made a positive impact at all. I hope that they're realizing that, because I thought that behavior was completely despicable. So,
yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah.
I understand how it gets to that point, though.
Yeah.
And between the elites and these institutions that have been so perfectly in their little bubbles, making the 1% more money, then they're sitting here throwing tantrums now, realizing, wait a minute, an average Joe 18-year-old gamer who's actually, no, 25-year-old gamer who's probably still a virgin, just got a stimulus check money, spends all of he drinks Monster Energies and is on Reddit until 3 a.m. in the morning, finds out, oh, wait, maybe I'll just hop on this Wall Street Bets page, figure out where to put my stimulus check money. All right, okay, everyone's in for GameStop. Let's do it. Tomorrow, 9 a.m. Then, like, look what they did.
It's awesome.
They shook the country. It's so cool to me.
Yeah, like, this is the best. These are, I'm just going to rattle off a few great tweets. It took fewer than 48 hours for the entire system to move against Reddit stock traders, ordinary Americans, in order to protect billionaires.
Yep. I found a quote from a legislator, Representative Ted Lieu, who I think is a Democrat. He came out yesterday evening saying, "I have concluded that investing in stocks is virtually indistinguishable from gambling." He pointed out there's a big difference between maintaining a diversified portfolio and day trading.
Yeah.
So although that doesn't seem like there's a negative connotation behind it, he definitely has some sort of tude.
Well,
and it's sort of saying that these people who are degenerates in low life and who know nothing about the stock market have no place investing because they're just treating it like a game, but actually they're being successful with it. So,
well, I mean, I have a different take on his tweet. I actually agree with what he's saying. But I mean,
no, I agree, but I was just highlighting the tone behind it. I think he's saying that with some sort of
I mean, I don't really
connotation to those people.
There might be a tone, but for me, I actually don't pick up on that as much, and that just could be a personal take. But my personal take on it is actually pretty positive, and I think that he's saying, I don't know, just with my degree is in finance, so I kind of have a little bit of an understanding of it, and I think that if you do participate in day trading, whether you're putting all this money in shorting something or you're all aggressively flooding the market for one specific stock, like, that is both gambling, but neither one is worse than the other. And the fact that the media is saying that the gamers are somehow doing something illegal or stupid or not thought out or unethical, it doesn't make sense. Like, if you're day trading, that is gambling. If you have a diversified portfolio that you're holding in the long run, that's just typical investing, and there's way less risk than that. But like, do you want to take day trading away completely? Do you want to, like, have it be so overregulated? Like, how far do you want to go with this? Like, once you open that discussion of saying that, people can't day trade, then I don't know, like, how far do you want to take that?
Absurd. Yeah. No. I mean, the definition of gambling is putting your money to an outcome that has a risk, like you could lose it. So that's exactly what investing in stock is. You might not 100% know every outcome or how shares are going to, like, improve or decline. So I think right now a lot of questions are being raised as to what needs to be regulated and where things need to be regulated, because I mean, I'm sure with the amount of turmoil that's now been exploded because of this whole thing, like, there will be measures taken by certain groups to ensure that this doesn't happen again. But does that mean that should this stop happening? That's my question.
No,
I don't know what should happen.
I don't think that it should stop happening because, like I said, there's two ways to invest. There's day trading, which is very risky, and it's equivalent to gambling, legalized gambling. And then there's diversified portfolios, and then there's also, like, this crossover where, like, people will have the diversified portfolio and they'll make plays that are long versus short term. And so once you start, like, trying to manipulate what type of trades people can make,
It's just lack of freedom.
It's just lack of freedom, and it's gonna, like, where does that end, you know? And maybe there could be some more regulation around, I don't know, more transparency about why you're making a trade, but even that, it's hard to do, you know, because people there's emotion involved in the stock market. Like, this is something that I've learned in my classes and talking to
psychology.
Yeah, there's so much psychology, and you know, if you're holding a well diversified portfolio that you're trying to hold till retirement, the best advice is just like, don't rarely touch it, you know, like just don't. But if you're someone who's managing yourself, you're going to have a lot more emotion. And when you start to see, you know, back in March when everything started to go down, you're going to be more likely to just want to uproot everything and sell it very quickly. So until you can take emotion out of trading, I don't see how you can regulate it to such an extent where it's fair for everyone.
It's not only systematic and methodical. There's a lot of factors involved.
Yeah.
I totally agree. I think that a part of the success of the people who did purchase like GameStop and AMC yesterday, there is a slight bit of luck and chance that it all conglomerated together and people actually did execute it. But I mean, do you think that people will have seen this whole scenario and will be inspired to continue and maybe would hit not as much success?
I don't know. I think it'll depend on kind of what...
Because people will remember this for a while.
I think it depends what the long-term play of these people are. I mean, I was reading one Reddit account where like someone said that it's an open letter to Melvin Capital, CNCB, Boomers, and WSB. And so what he's saying in this open letter is that he was a teenager during the '08 crisis, and he remembered when institutional groups got bailed out, and that to him, like, investing in these companies, GameStop, AMC, et cetera, that it was a personal matter. He didn't do it because he was trying to like make a quick buck. He was doing it because he was sticking it to the institutions. He was sticking it to these hedge funds that were shorting the stock, and they were participating in legalized gambling. I mean, the amount of volume that they had shorting GameStop was a huge amount of volume.
Completely.
And so I think that he's saying that I think that some people, like, this is a personal vendetta, and I don't know if it will continue or if it will stop with this. I do think someone who is a finance major and kind of does understand the institutional side of things, I think doing this all the time can be dangerous. But also, I think what we learned with this is it's not just individual people that are doing it. This has been happening with hedge funds behind the scenes, which is why the stock market does not reflect the actual state of the economy right now. It just doesn't.
You're right. I found a really good quote. So Time Magazine, which is typically maybe more liberal, left-wing leaning, came out with a whole article explaining the strategy behind it and why people were, I guess, encouraged or self-enabled to actually buy up the stocks. And Jamie Cohen, a digital culture expert, he has a PhD in cultural media studies. He said, this has nothing to do with actual money. I've been tracking it since last Friday, but at the beginning it was likely a game. And then when people start having these back channels of conversations, they start posting secondary information being like, yeah, screw them, we've been disenfranchised. So in these groups like Wall Street Bets on Reddit, people, I think you have to have an invitation now to get in because they made it, Reddit stepped in and made it invitation only. Before yesterday it wasn't. Anyone could just go on, and they were talking about GameStop and what they were going to do. And when they're saying quotes like screw them, like screw these institutions, it's definitely that was definitely propelled by a certain feeling behind why they were discussing that. So I just thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, and I think that it's you don't, like we said earlier, do not be duped by institutions saying that they care about the people. Like, we've seen this time over time again, and politicians do this all the time to get elected. Like, I think it was Black Lives Matter that tweeted, oh, I think we just got used by the Democratic Party because Biden I don't think he met with them after he got elected or even after he got inaugurated. I think, there was the Republican woman who was, I forget her name, who was running.
Kelly
Yeah,
Loeffler.
she did the same. She totally, she had insider information about the pandemic and the potential economic loss and sold all of her shares before everything crashed in March. So this happens on both sides.
We're on the same wavelength because I just pulled up a tweet discussing like Pelosi's stock situation in the last year. She bought up $1 million worth of Tesla options at $500 right before Joe Biden's announcement that he was transitioning to electric vehicles.
Yeah.
So that's complete insider knowledge, somehow super convenient timing. And the elites sort of using each other's connections to boost their own success with their
and I think that we're
trading.
seeing this marriage between the elites and kind of companies, because insider trading historically was just about, let's say you worked for I don't know, let's say you worked for Amazon and you knew something about, you're high up in Amazon, you knew something about why the stock would increase whatever, and you release
like
that
a new agenda they were
and you use that information to make your own trades. Like that's kind of the most simplified version of insider trading, but now we're seeing this elite connection widespread net of insider trading, which is very similar to that example with Nancy Pelosi, and the example that I just gave is that your connections with these companies and with policy is driving so much of the stock price of some of these companies. So it's not just about people like execs in the companies, it's about politicians as well,
No, yeah, they're totally tied.
Yeah.
I like that explanation a lot.
Yeah.
I found another good tweet from someone with not a blue check, but just a statement that I think is really, really good. We let 500,000 people die because a mass disease shutdown would have crashed the all-important stock market, which is so stupid that it's currently being gamified by Reddit users to blow up a hedge fund worth billions. Anyway, probably nothing bad about our economic system.
I like that.
I mean, yeah, you lock people down and they lose their businesses, and you can't figure out how to get stimulus checks out in a reasonable amount of time and in an effective way. And then they figure out other ways to make money.
Yeah.
So that's exactly, in a simplified way, what we're seeing right now.
Yeah. And I like this one a lot too. They have rigged everything, silenced dissent with tech censorship and financial deplatforming, rigged the economy with insider trading, rigged democracy with lobbying and mass immigration, and they'll tell you with a straight face that rednecks are the problem. So what this is saying is that they're saying that it's kind of that twist that we kind of told you, where they blurred the vision of who we thought was the real enemy. And I think that we thought it was racist rednecks, which, I mean, the racism is like a problem in the US, and there are racists, but it's not as large of a number as we saw in previous decades and in previous generations. And I wouldn't say that it's not the only threat that's out there. There are some other things that are happening. And also, like, these companies, by changing the definition of what racism is, it actually takes away by identifying, like, it takes away the ability to identify real racists. Because when you say, oh, it's racist to have a Reddit community chat that is about sticking it to the hedge fund, then that is really confusing to people, because you're like, wait, I thought racism was when you believe that being white was better than being black. Like, that's what I thought the definition of racism is. Why does it have to do with these people trying to say F you to a hedge fund? I don't understand. I don't understand when the definition changed,
I don't either.
It's to distract us from A, being able to identify real racists, and B, being able to identify the other problems that are going on, like rigging the economy with insider trading, rigging the democracy with lobbyists, and silencing dissent with tech censorship, which are all real problems. Like, sorry.
Completely. And I would argue that some of those might be a higher priority than certain ones. I mean, racism 100% is a priority. It's just, we have to make sure we gear our attention to all of these things and not just isolate.
You can't view anything in a tunnel, whether it's how to deal with a pandemic or how to deal with racism or how to deal with censorship. You cannot view any of it in a tunnel, because once you do, you will miss pieces of the truth that will connect you to finding out who the real enemy is in the situation. Completely. For sure.
So going back to how you address like the '08 crisis or whatever, I'd like to point out for anyone who hasn't realized, like if you're a millennial or Gen Z, you've lived through both or two pretty much recessions right now.
Yeah.
And so that is apparently what they're saying is generational anger seems to be one of the most like motivating forces behind this whole market upturn initiative. And there's been a study that says indicating jumps of deaths of despair among like young adults facing like uncertain financial situations. Like, looking forward, how are we supposed to have real faith in the financial system right now or the economy? I don't feel like I have that.
Yeah, millennials only control 4% of the US wealth. And I think that is really telling. And part of it is personal decision making, right? I think millennials and Gen Z, like, we're very into hype culture. People spend more. People aren't buying houses as much. So I'm not saying that isn't somewhat personal decision making, but a part of it is that I've done a lot of research into how generations interact with each other, and the boomer generation has done a horrible job passing on authority and wealth to people. They have held on to it, and you can see this with people like Bill Gates, who are extremely old and have all this billionaire institutional power. You can see that with politicians on both the right and the left. Mitch McConnell, Nancy Pelosi, Dianne Feinstein. All these people are way too old. They're all 80 years old, should not be running Congress. Their net worth is a huge amount, and they're basically career politicians. So you're seeing this kind of generational struggle where boomers have held on to the power and the wealth for so long, and they have not done a good job educating and training the next generation.
I agree. Passing the torch.
Yeah, we have gotten rid of basic financial literacy, and I don't think it's a coincidence. I think that when people are financially literate, they make better decisions for themselves, and they're able to be more responsible. And I think that millennials have not been given those tools in order to be incentivized to make good decisions.
We didn't even get a class in high school that was obligated by the state to teach us basic financial management.
Yeah.
Nobody understands. We did like a summer course on just basic economics.
This summer course.
Swear, if high schools made kids take a business, finance, econ, hybrid, just one class,
super basic,
we would be so much better off. I will go to the grave with that.
And you know what? I don't think that there's an incentive. I'll go this far. I don't think that there's an incentive for people who are in elite positions to give people that education, because why would they? If they have the knowledge and other people don't, it just increases their power. It increases their wealth. It increases that generation's ability to keep creating and managing wealth. And it's the same dynamic that is going on with this whole Reddit thing. It's people finally being like, okay, I'm going to figure out a way to figure this out. And people all of a sudden, they don't like that pushback.
Yeah.
You know?
No, agreed, because it's a threat in a way.
Yeah.
So I finally just saw the AOC tweets. This is so interesting.
It is really interesting. I very much agree with what she's saying.
We now need to know more about Robinhood's decision to block retail investors from purchasing stock while hedge funds are freely able to trade the stock as they see fit. So she is for the people, speaking for the people, the retail investors in the situation. And yeah, that's a testament to, we've got people on the right speaking out about it in support of the people, and then people on the left. So
let's find some common ground, hopefully. I think that's like the most positive thing that I've seen about this, like as we're kind of wrapping up this episode, is that I really do love the potential for common ground to be made, because I think that if we have any chance as a society to move forward in a more positive direction, to live in a place that is more inclusive, more unified, has more wealth to the average citizen.
Take advantage of any of those
we need to take advantage of any opportunity to come together and really push back, because we need to hold on to these freedoms, because they're not just guaranteed. Like, they're for us to claim, for sure, you know?
I mean, we were given free will with the start of humanity, and those of us who were born in America, we've been given a lot of privileges, but they're not exempt from disappearing one day, depending on who's conducting the outcomes. So yeah, it's definitely not infinite. Yeah, that's the word.
Yeah.
Freedom isn't infinite. I found a really good quote from JFK that said, "Those who make peaceful revolution impossible also make violent revolution inevitable." So like this is a little mini revolution. These little gamers coming out, figuring out how to take advantage of the hole they saw in the system with Robinhood and retail investing. And that's in a way a peaceful revolution and lawful. And same with like peaceful protesting, that's lawful. So if those are taken away, like the App Store getting rid of Robinhood or preventing ways for people to do that,
banning people on Twitter,
censorship as a whole, that is leading towards violent revolution.
Yeah.
So we need to make sure that doesn't happen. And
yeah, when people feel like they can't use their words, it's like a little kid. If they can't talk, they're gonna punch their sister. That's the reality of it.
Throw a tantrum, then you're gonna have to deal with all the whining, and it sounds horrible.
I don't want
a
tantrum revolution. I think that we don't need it. We have a really good thing going on here. We do. So far, it's been a great, yes, America has had a rough past, but every society, every country has, and we've made a lot of progress very fast, and I'm really happy with where we have come, and I don't want to just throw it all away, because when we do that, it creates chaos, and it creates whoever's the most powerful is able to quickly grasp the situation, take control, and then it doesn't benefit anyone whatsoever. So if we can, and violence is always like the last option, and I don't like violence at all, and I don't ever either. So I want people,
it'll always be around though.
I want people to see this GameStop thing and look at it and be like, oh, okay, that was a check. As an elitist, like, that was a check for me, and I'm gonna let go a little bit. I don't want people to grasp even more onto power, because that's gonna just lead to
they realize their position much more.
Yeah.
Hopefully. Yeah. I love that.
I just want it to be a thoughtful check, just a thoughtful little.
I think that one day that we all remember when we fully went on lockdown, I remember it so vividly. That's when I really had a wake up call going, okay, things can change like the wind, and you don't have control over everything. So yeah, that's why we need to work to preserve these, I would say a fundamental right to freedom of speech, freedom to express yourself, whatever, and realize that can go away pretty quickly too.
Yeah.
So yeah, it takes effort to consciously think about that and process that on a day-to-day basis, and not just think in the back of your head, oh, like, yeah, that never happened. No, anything can happen.
Anything's possible. Know what you believe in and what is important to you, and don't be afraid to address that and speak your mind.
Stick it to the man. I think we've said that like 50 times.
I love stick it to the man. Yeah. I do.
I just love the whole concept of the little guy versus the big guy.
David and Goliath.
Yeah. Gamers versus elites. Gamers versus deep state.
And don't forget to save AMC.
Yes, AMC. I miss movie theaters a lot.
I know. Well, yes. Hopefully soon we'll be at movie theaters again. Maybe this will give AMC the push to make it through the pandemic. We'll see. Definitely. But is there anything else you wanted to add? Any final thoughts?
No. Just wanted to tell you guys to like this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Subscribe. It's really important you subscribe. I'm begging you, honestly.
If you have any thoughts, comment, because we're interested to know what you think. And we'll be back really soon.
Yeah. Bye.
Thank you.